Sup guys, just want to give you a little overview of my tech setup. I keep my main PC, or my HT home theater PC, way high up in my room. Motherboard is a Gigabyte mini-itx, forget whether it's a Z49 or Z69. CPU is an Intel i5-10600K, 2 sticks of 16GB memory, so totaling to 32 gigs of RAM. GPU is a 1660 Super, nothing crazy, but for home theater, perfectly fine. Bought it during the pandemic. 1660 Super was all that was available at the time. Insane. I've got a Corsair SFX power supply and a Crucial P5 1TB internal SSD. Right beside my HTPC, I call this Tech Corner. You got a power strip. Each outlet's got individual on-off switches. Beneath that is a USB hub. It's a 16-port USB 3 hub, also with individual on-off switches for each of the ports. Makes troubleshooting USB issues hassle-free. And connected to that hub is a shit ton of external storage. All solid-state drives. Combination of 2.5-inch SATA SSDs, as well as NVMe SSDs in enclosures. Sabrent makes an enclosure that is water resistant. I highly recommend this. I've had some of these SSDs go underwater for prolonged periods of time, and they have survived. I do have some WD hard disk drives, but they're not hooked up to anything. Only SSDs for now. No moving parts means no chance for mechanical failure. This is my ingestation, where I transfer all my DVDs, Blu-rays, CDs to PC and just view from a digital file. And I keep my physical discs as physical backups. Do you guys remember when big cases were a trend? Do you guys remember the Half X by Cooler Master? Touted as being one of the best cases for high airflow and also suitable for water cooling. This case is enormous. It's a monolith. This was the first PC case I ever built in. The motherboard is an Asus Extreme Z68 board. It's got the Intel 2600K. There was a time when that was the king of gaming CPUs. This has 16 gigs of RAM. Back in 2012, that was a lot. The GPU in this guy is a RTX 3060. So the original CPU and motherboard from back in 2012, but with an upgraded GPU. Power supply is Seasonic titanium rated 850 watt, which is plenty for the gear that's inside. SSD is a 1TB SATA based SSD. When I built this machine back in 2012, this Z68 motherboard that's inside from Asus was known for having a massive amount of USB 3 ports. So even though I bought it back in 2012, the I/O is more than adequate. Plenty of USB 3. Yeah, buying a board like that basically future-proofed this machine. This is my most recent build. It makes use of a fractal case. They're one of the best case manufacturers currently, in my opinion. I don't use the front panel I/O that much, so I have the USB ports plugged up. Just rubber plugs. came with a solid side panel, but I just purchased a piece of frosted acrylic, drilled some holes through it, tapped some holes through the case, bought some thumb screws, and just made a clear acrylic side panel of my own. Here's my modern rig with the side panel on. CPU is a Intel i7-10700K, 32 gigs of DDR4 memory from Corsair, low profile memory. Got Noctua's industrial PPC fans on the front. This is also a mini-itx board, the higher end Z chipset. Even though this case can fit micro ATX, there weren't a lot of good options at the time, so I went with ITX. Nothing wrong with going smaller. I can still have my GPU in here. This is an RTX 3080. This variant has 12 gigs of VRAM instead of the standard 10 gigs. This is an ASUS card. And what I like about these is that they provide a little switch here. You change the mode that it runs in from performance or quiet. I have it set to quiet. That just means the fans don't kick in until the GPU reaches a certain temperature. I've got some kind of seasonic power supply in here. It's either 850 watts or 1000 watts. And a 1TB NVMe SSD somewhere behind the GPU. Fractal uses very thick steel. I believe the fine series of cases in particular give you the option of tempered glass or solid metal side panels, which I love because not everyone wants tempered glass. Last but not least, good old reliable ThinkPad. This is the only machine out of all my rigs that still runs Windows 7, which is perfectly fine. And there you have it. All my rigs so far, 3 full-fledged desktops and 1 laptop.